What's up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite players that has revived his career. And I know I've done a lot of videos on younger players in the NBA, but Derrick Rose's story has amazed me, so let's get right into it. Up in Chicago, he had a very close relationship with his mother. He was the youngest of 4 children, and his brothers really helped him develop his game and keep him on track. One of his brothers, Allen, got a scholarship, but he got caught up in the hood and didn't go to college. Allen became an example of what not to do for Derrick Rose. But Allen was naturally pretty smart. Him and Derrick Rose spent a lot of time together, and Allen used to tell Rose, "Never do what I'm doing." And he knew how good Derrick Rose was and could be. Derrick Rose's 2 other brothers went to college, played basketball. They were pretty successful. Rose started his organized basketball around fifth or sixth grade, and eventually started betting on it, and due to his mother's financial troubles. He said it was because their money they shared most of their money because of how much Derrick Rose contributed. Rose never sold drugs for money, and his friends never did drugs or sold drugs. Derrick Rose's mom, who he was very close to, came from a rough family from Hyde Park. His mom had Derrick's oldest brother at age 15 and dropped out of high school as a sophomore. Derrick thought that his last name should have been Brumfield because his mom had divorced Tommy Rose and had Derrick with another man. Derrick didn't know who his biological father was, but Tommy Rose was a good father figure for him in the house, and he was still part of the family. Derrick went to Simeon Career Academy and was highly recruited. He went to Simeon High School because his best friend Randall Hamilton went there too. Randall's dad ended up being the assistant coach, and Randall now has a trucking company, and Rose and him were reportedly still close friends. In high school, he used to work out with Andre Hamlin every day, and Andre was a male role model for Rose and a lot of kids in the community. Rose decided to go to Memphis with Coach John Capillari, and he's now coach of the Kentucky Wildcats. In college, Rose led his team with 15 points per game to a 38-2 record, the most wins in NCAA history. Memphis was the 1 seed, made all the way to the championship, lost to Kansas in overtime. This whole season was vacated, or was removed from Memphis, including the most games won in a regular season, because Rose turned out to be ineligible due to SAT scores. As far as his career in the NBA goes, he was drafted June 26, 2008, to his hometown Bulls, who had a 1.7% chance of getting the #1 pick that happened to have their hometown star. It may or may not have been rigged, we'll never know, but Derrick Rose got to Chicago either way. Derrick Rose was never glued on TV watching the Bulls, waiting for Jordan to play. No, he said no offense to Jordan. He's instead heard about more local guys from Chicago. When he was a rookie, he went to a team without a star, and there are some good guys on that team, good examples like Luol Deng and Joakim Noah, who may have been drafted later. Luol Deng was a good example of taking care of his body for Rose. Rose used to just walk past the training room, just to the court so he could shoot, never understanding why Luol had to take all those recovery techniques. And if he followed these recovery techniques, he probably would have had his body last longer and focused more on how he landed and how his knees affected his health. He also noted how how LeBron took care of his body with everything he does, and we obviously see that today. LeBron's playing amazing, even though he may not be playing every game of the season. He's still playing amazing for a 36-year-old, almost 37. And when he was in Cleveland for a short time, he was with LeBron, and he saw how LeBron took care of his body every day. After a second MCL tear, when Rose started implementing recovery techniques and strategies, learning his body, in Derrick Rose's MVP season in 2011, he was a 7th in the league in scoring with 25 points per game, and he was a 10th in assists per game with 7.7 assists. This isn't his stats that made him MVP. It was his subpar squad that he gave a boost star power, and he led them to the 1 seed. Without Rose, this team would be terrible, let alone 1 seed. And that's why he was the most valuable player. The Bulls ended up getting bounced in the Eastern Conference Finals in 5 to the Heat super team, and Derrick Rose wanted more. He wanted more of those championships, and he said to himself that he would never stop. And this really affected him. He never stopped to appreciate the moment and all he had accomplished up to that moment. And this is the paradox most people see, because if you appreciate the moment too much, you just stop working towards the goal, and then you won't be the best. However, guys like Giannis Booker live in the moment, not the future pride, not the past and glory, but in the present with humility. Most watching have seen Derrick Rose's first injury when the Bulls were up in 2012. Many blame Tom Tibbs, the coach, but Rose didn't. Rose doesn't. He said he wanted to be in the game. He said it was his fault. He's playing out of control. But either way, Rose got injured. In 2013, Rose tore his meniscus again, 10 games after he got back. 2014, he played, even for Team USA. And there's a good clip of Rose just staring at the screen. It was pretty funny. Most people say he's Kawhi before Kawhi. But in 2015, he tore his right knee meniscus in his right knee again. He came back 9 months later and got an orbital fracture September 29th. The first practice. Soon after, he was traded to the Knicks. And when he got the call that's traded, it's recorded on camera. You can watch that if you want. In 2017, he tore his meniscus again in his left knee. 64 games in the season with the Knicks while averaging 18 points per game. He signed with the Cavs, then played with the Jazz, and then he was signed by the Wolves. And against the Jazz, which had dropped him, he scored a legendary 50-point career high against the Jazz. After that, he signed a good deal with the Pistons, and he has been working on getting better ever since that season. He has come off the bench for the Pistons most of the time and was traded to the Knicks for Dennis Smith Jr. in a second recently. And guess who the coach was? Tom Thibodeau. This brings us to the present where Derrick Rose detonated in the playoffs, leading a younger squad on the Knicks, less experienced players on that Knicks team. Many doubt that he had a Hall of Fame career, but he's a legend either way. Overall, Derrick Rose's life and journey through the NBA has taught him a lot, and he's a hard player to hate. He's a player which he can teach younger players who can learn from him to help their own careers, and he's a guy who you can learn a lot of stuff from. I would want him on a team if I was any NBA franchise just for his leadership. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I know I didn't mention a lot of things about his career and a lot of things throughout his years in the NBA. Comment below stories you know about Derrick Rose. Like and sub if you want, and see you next time.